What's up, my little boo-boo patooties? How is everybody? I'm doing well. It's totally Tuesday night. We're here for our manifestation oracle reading. You're probably seeing this Wednesday or whenever, but it doesn't really matter. The timing on my videos, really, it's like we're in this like ongoing saga day after day, the days of our lives. And so it can apply to this week or like this next week. Sometimes they are longer, but really they're kind of like honed in and focused on the now. So they're usually around, the next 6 to 8 days. But if you see them anytime, like in the sidebar, and it stands out to you, or like if you went to, say, my channel page and you were just like scrolling videos and this one stood out, it's good at any time. It can be evergreen. The cool thing about the spirit world is that time doesn't exist, and that's the same in reality, in the physical reality as well, in a way. Time and space are just an illusion, and it's something to help us organize ourselves by. But in the non-physical realm, time doesn't matter at all. So that's why so many storylines can be going on at one time in one reading, and they can be true for so many different people in so many different ways. And that's why sometimes you can have a reading that kind of strikes you, but it's not like nothing happens immediately, and then something happens like much later and you're like, oh my gosh, that is exactly that one reading that I remember for whatever reason stood out and never played out. So time and space are an illusion. So the first card we got for the our reading, and this is basically just our intention is to say, okay, for the next week or so, what would behoove me. Like, where should I direct my focus and attention as far as like my manifestations and my goals are concerned, and the things that I want to see come to fruition in my life? Like, how should I approach this week? It's usually where our head's at. And so the first card out is make a decision. Feeling stuck or indecisive, listen to your intuition and make a decision. Over the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been having at least 1 or 2 times a week something pop up that hints at like maybe like an inner conflicting desire, or like an indecisiveness, or maybe there's like this conflicting energy that's equal and opposing and cancels itself out. And so it's like there's something thwarting us. It's like procrastination, indecision, maybe even overanalysis paralysis, information overwhelm. Something is causing this. And so some of it might be like nervous system default setting responses to go into like freeze mode, which might have you overanalyzing or overthinking. I know I am a Libra rising, so I'm already prone to like overweighing the pros and cons, overthinking everything, and seeing the great and the con, like the pros and cons of both sides equally. And so it's sometimes very hard for me to make a decision. That, and I can sort of like look ahead and troubleshoot in every direction, and I'm like, and so that makes it hard. And then there's also like childhood post-traumatic stress syndrome that lives in our nervous system. And so maybe minor things can trigger like a default setting in our subconscious because of childhood post-traumatic stress syndrome that lives in our nervous system. And it causes us to play out something like a freeze response or a fight, flight, whatever. But if the indecision is manifesting as maybe freezing, and so that can look like underperformance, can look like being overly busy, but like not getting anything fruitful out of it. Directing your attention in places that aren't really that, like not in the, like you're not really focusing on what's important kind of thing. Either that, or you can't maintain focus, or you can't sit for very long, or there's an action that you need to take, but you just can't take it. It's just like you keep finding something keeps distracting you, it keeps preventing you, or you just keep avoiding it in subtle ways to yourself. So that's been a huge theme coming up recently about what is kind of holding us back. So one thing that you can do that's a practical tool, I have been using this for years, is making lists for the day. Like, I like to do this. If I do it at night, it's like I don't really like set the intention clear enough for myself in the morning. So I like to do it in the morning, but like I know that that's part of my morning routine. It's one of the first things that I do is I make my list of things to do. Now, what's really great, I love these certain journals and day planners that can help you make like lists for your month, and then you break them down like through the weeks, and then you make micro lists for the day. But if you have these ongoing things to do, it's like, okay, these are the next several things that I need in my master plan. And these are broken down are the first micro steps that I need to take to start knocking this out. So at the beginning of every day, I like to just write down like my routine, my schedule, everything that I'm going to do, everything that I want to accomplish. And it keeps me focused and intentful on how I'm directing my time and my energy and my resources for the day. And if I stay on top of that list and keep checking in with myself, I realize that like there's a lot of time that we just burn in the day, like spending our like willpower on things that don't matter, like going through a menu for like too long, like looking for, say, a video or something, like an episode or something to watch. It's like at a certain point, it's just like, just make a decision, stop wasting the time, stop burning the energy, stop circling the runway, stop staring into the refrigerator, just get the water out, like, something, but don't try to stop yourself and realize how much time you might be spending and burning and energy and willpower in that indecision. And so there's like this subtle fear under indecision of making the wrong choice and having to suffer the consequences. And part of our growth, and this might be the ask of our spiritual evolution right now, is just to be able to be more fearless about it and be bold and just make a decision and own it and accept the responsibility and the consequences or the results that come from it, right? And just realize that, there may be more than one right way. And, there's two sides to everything. And, there's maybe more than that, maybe more sides than that to everything. But there might be more than one right way to do something. And there may be many wrong ways to do it. And, sometimes in life, it's not whether or not we're going to make the wrong choice. It's just make a choice and see how you show up on that journey. And probably either any choice for the important destiny plot points in our life, they're going to take us all to those same pivotal moments anyway. It's just how we get there. So, sometimes it's not about making the right choice. It's just about make a choice and own it and go with it. And that's your script. That's your chosen adventure, right? For the next whatever. Okay. Oh, all right. Playtime. Ooh, feeling it. The dolphins know the importance of playing as joy creates miracles and manifestation. This has also been coming up a lot about getting into a state of joy and appreciation and surrender. Again, surrender is like the opposite of fear, right? Because when we're in surrender, we're not trying to like grasp for control. And when we're grasping for control, like when we can't make a decision, it's like this attempt to try to control by like not doing anything. And because we don't want to make the wrong decision, it's like we don't want to be out of control, so therein. So playtime requires surrender. Like we let go, we're in certainty and faith in the creator in that moment, or at least we're not being bound and controlled by fear when we're in play. It gets us into a high vibrational state of joy, and it's very magnetic. We've needed to go through like a deep purge through Pisces season and through this winter. And it's preparing us for sort of like a reinvention, a rebirth, a rebranding of self. And we're about to launch into like the new season of Us, Life, the Show. And that's going to start in Aries season. And so for now, we've been using that Piscean energy to really go into the depths of our emotions and into the unconscious to dig up those old programs that we want to get rid of and we don't want to take with us. But it's been pretty like heavy and soggy and muddy, and it's I didn't even think that I was that in that much pain anymore. But it's like this weird leftover pain that gets shoved under the rug, that you're like, oh, when you move different places and you keep having this old stuff that follows you around and you don't even want it that much anymore and you don't know what to do with it. Finally, you get it cleaned out and you have so much more space. It's like, that's kind of what it's been like. It's like there's this old pain that got forgotten about, that didn't get quite fully processed. Life just kind of took over and we had to move on too quickly. And so now, like, all that's coming out, but in order for us to really start and get any energy going and magnetism going, we've got to get our fire and our passion kind of going again. So this is kind of the transitional period of coming out of this wet, boggy deluge of the end of winter and the beginning of spring, which is like the wet, cold, mud time of year. And then the sun starts coming out and the light starts to grow again. And eventually that wetness, that heavy wet blanket starts to burn off. And then we start to come back to life and the fires start getting lit within us again. So go play, have a good time. I know I'm looking forward to my days off this week, and I'm just gonna, try to do some things that are really fun. I'm so excited for the longer days. I can get so much more accomplished. I feel like everything that I love doing requires daylight. All my favorite things anyway. So I'm excited about getting a couple of extra hours, or I don't know, I guess at least one extra hour of daylight this week to play in. Playtime, it's so inspiring. That's always when I get like so many great ideas, and then I feel motivated and inspired, and it gives me energy to get through the duller, less enjoyable moments of the week. All right, what else do we need to know for this week other than kind of getting some play and some fun in, and just deciding to just be more decisive and less procrastinate less? Waves of prosperity, new abundance, and exciting opportunities are washing over you now. We've been we've had these messages talking about opportunities coming in, and they're right on the precipice. They're just like on the edge, pushing through, like crowning, birthing. So it's like this initiation period that we're in this liminal transitional space. Like all the work that we're doing on ourselves is opening us up for more of these waves of prosperity to come through. So if there's parts of you that you've been trying to overcome and rise above and improve upon, and you've been really working at it, it's opening up it's like gathering abundance for you to come in. And it's like every time you overcome a fear or an insecurity, or you really change something in yourself, or you really are able to forgive, it's like peeling layers of an onion, right? It's like it just puts more prosperity in the spiritual bank account for you. And there's so many things that I feel like are gathering and stirring. So it's just going to be really interesting. I feel like the spring is just going to start bringing things in like bit by bit by bit. But new abundance and exciting opportunities wash over you now. And the more that we're in a state of joy and already in a state of like excitement and positive expectancy and just appreciation, the more that we're going to attract those things and open us up to those things. All right, one last card. I feel like it's this one. Ooh, pay attention. Notice repetitious signs and your inner guidance, as this can yield valuable information. So there have been, this message is just repeating so many things that have come through recently, which reminds me, go watch the New Moon in Pisces Tarot and Oracle workshop A lot of these themes we go into detail and depth about, and that was a very, very helpful reading. I do a Celtic cross using my straightforward oracle. It's a custom deck that I wrote, that I made, and it really goes straight into the issues. It just tells you straight up, like, this is what this is related to, this is where this is coming from, and it was very enlightening and very it gave a lot of clarity. But a lot of these themes came up again, so it's like just reiterating and underscoring a lot of that. But signs and synchronicities came up in that reading, and it was telling us to watch out for those things. Don't be obsessively looking for them, but if you notice things that jump out at you, pay attention. Pay attention to your gut feeling. It's like, what is that inner knowing telling you? Because our anchor message for the week, if you guys haven't seen it yet, or if you have, you might remember that inner knowing, gnosis, was a big thing this week, one of our lessons. And so it's like an assignment is like, pay attention to that inner knowing and follow it and believe it and have certainty in it and trust it. It's funny, the other night, Sunday night at work, we were making bets on the Oscars, and it was $1 buy-in, big money, big risks. Don't without the risk, there's no reward. But I hadn't really seen any of the movies that were nominated yet this year, except for Barbie, and I was like, well, it won't be any fun for me because I won't have any educated, real guesses. It'll just be like random. And I was like, actually, no, I am like an intuitive. I could just use this as an intuitive exercise and still play. And everyone's like, yeah, you should do that. Okay. So I placed my bets, and it's so funny because some of the films I saw, there was a trend that other people had like clicked that one. And I was like, yeah, that's probably right. But there's something in me that wanted to pick one of the other ones, and I didn't. And it was so funny because at the end of the night, I actually did fairly well considering I had to guess in all categories according to like my intuition. I hadn't seen any of the movies except for Barbie, and so many of them I got right. And it wasn't even anything I'd seen. I knew nothing about it. Hadn't seen any previews for most of them or anything. And I was like, oh my God. And what stood out to me the most was the ones that I got wrong were the ones that I'd followed the trends, and I didn't listen to my inner hunch. And it's like that little gut feeling where you're like, I don't know why, but I just feel like this one's and you don't have any reason, logic, no logic, no reason. And that was where I was coming from. I got too much of my masculine. I was like, there's no logical reason why I should be right about this when everyone else has more insight, and they knew and they saw the movie, right? They must know better than I did. Nope. Listen to your gut. Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. So learn to pay attention to your gut. It's a language that you have to learn with yourself. It's a skill that you practice. But pay attention, because your instincts are trying to lead you closer to that destiny point. I feel like we're coming up in a destiny point. And so if you're thinking about life through the lens of screenplay writing, at certain points in the script, there are these things called plot points. And they kind of take whatever the situation is right now and they kind of turn it on its head. And so at the beginning of the movie, there's like a 10-minute introduction, and you get introduced to all the characters. And you get a little bit of a taste of like who they are in relation to the main character. And you get an idea of who the main character is and who they are in the context of their life in this moment, and kind of what their vibe is. Almost like the first card in a Celtic Cross tarot reading. And so at about minute 10 to 15, there's going to be plot point 1, which is an inciting incident that turns the script on its head. It turns the story around. Like, it basically turns the life of the main character kind of upside down. And whatever you thought everything was like, it is not like that for the rest of the movie. And so basically that's the inciting incident that is the catalyst for the adventure that takes the character onto a journey of ultimately confrontation of the issue, the conflict. And the subplot on the inside is that they are also facing something inside themselves and growing and transcending that. And so there's the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. And so the plot points are these sort of like, that's what I'm thinking of as these destiny points. Now you go through the rest of Act 1, sort of like you get the rest of the story around the plot point. It's like they're getting the plan together. And then by the Act 2, it's like they set out on the road trip. They set out on the journey. They like break trail on the way to Mordor, right? And so the Act 2 is the journey of the movie, the meat of it, the middle, the confrontation kind of the work. Then all of that preparation leads the character into the second plot point of the movie, which is at the end of Act 2, and it takes you into the third act. And so I feel like it's the second plot point. I feel like there's two plot points, and I feel like it's either at the end of Act 2 or it's like in Act 3. But the other plot point is the turning point for the character, where they are faced with their biggest fear or their ultimate weakness or the big hurdle to overcome. And they have to draw from their inner resources and from the experience that they've just come through and use all of that to help deal with the issue at hand. And they come out the other side, in Act 3, this is kind of all this is going on. And at the end of Act 3 is like they kind of have the final confrontation and the resolution. But these destiny points, we obviously don't have just the 1 and the 2. It's just ongoing. But I feel like we're coming up to like a destiny point. It's like we're rounding out one of the acts, one of the big long acts of life. And I don't mean that to sound scary, like we're like, this is the evening of our lives, we're fading out. It's not what I mean, but it's just like there's a big change, there's a big shift, there's a new cycle starting, new opportunities coming in, changes. So I do feel that like something is hovering that is going to be a plot point, a destiny point very soon. Divine timing has come up for like 3 weeks right now, recently. And so it tells me that something is brewing under the surface, or like something's going on behind the scenes. People's free will is involved, right? So maybe parts and pieces are still in flux before it can all come together. But it's all really interesting, and I feel excitement brewing, and I feel positive anticipation for it. So it's almost like if you were looking to buy a house and you'd been looking and like viewing all of these houses, and you're like, oh man, and there's so many that you thought you were going to get, and you're like, this was almost it. I just knew it. And they all fell through. And there was like something little about all of them where you're just like, I don't know. I didn't like that place for like this reason or that reason. And really what's happening is that the perfect house for you is about to go on the market. But maybe the homeowners don't even know yet, because there's going to be like some sudden thing coming up where like they suddenly got a really great career opportunity in some other state across the country, and they're like going to have to move like at a moment's notice. And so they got to put their house up for sale, and it's like you see it the day it goes up, and oh my gosh, like you've already got all your ducks in a row. You've already got your down payment ready. You've already got your mortgage approved because you've already been doing this. It's like, okay, you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to be the first person to put the offer down, and y'all are going to be the ones that are under contract instead of, being the disappointed people who came in just like 1 or 2 days too late, or even hours, right? So hold on, plot points coming, pay attention to your gut, trust it and follow it. What do you have to lose? And that's another thing too. It's like, sometimes we feel our gut, and then we're indecisive about it. We don't trust it, and then we wane, and we make another decision instead that we end up dissatisfied with. So listen to your gut and trust it, and just be decisive and make a decision and own it. And that certainty, that owning that decision, that gets you like, it cuts down turbulence, because it's this like cosmic ownership of your energy and certainty. It gives you boldness and vibrational alignment. And so, have fun. Waves of prosperity are coming in. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Obviously be wise and frugal and prudent and all of that, but get excited, get feeling excited, and start ruminating in your mind and in your imagination, like about the good things that you're calling in. And if you start going down a path of negativity or judgment or criticism or despair, just switch the channel back to things like that make you happy, that give you joy. If it's kittens, if it's your little baby niece, nephew, whatever it is that brings you full of love and joy, just switch your attention to that. Anything to distract yourself from the negativity that will throw you out of the connection with the Creator. That's what we want to maintain right now. In order to keep our vessel open and in that miracle zone and in flow, we have to maintain affinity with the light. And so the best way to do that is to stay in a state of positivity, of love. If you have to, just restriction and silence. But if we get hostile or fearful or scarcity mode, or desperate or needy or clingy or anything like that, then that takes us out of alignment with the Creator, and it cuts us off from our blessings. So let that be the motivator. Do I want to cut myself off from my blessings? Do I want to manifest these things, these dreams into my life? Yeah, totally. So look at the thing in front of you that might get you distracted or tails ruffled, or if you see yourself, staring into the refrigerator for too long and you're like, I don't know what to eat. Just break that right then. Just choose something or walk away, but don't stay in indecision. Train your mind to be more alpha, owner. Own your decisions. I'm not ready to decide yet. It teaches you not to be insecure, essentially. All right. Well, I hope that y'all have a good week ahead. I hope we are manifesting things. I hope big things are coming through. And I hope that we can all maintain all the work we've been doing and try not to slip and backslide and short circuit. Prayers for my homies. Praying for my homies. All right, y'all. Ciao. See you tomorrow. Be good, but not too good.